On August 21st, 1986, a lake in Cameroon killed 1,746 people. Not with an explosion, not with a flood, not with an earthquake. It simply exhaled, and within 16 miles, the air stopped being air. Here is how that was possible. 1986, northwestern Cameroon. Thousands of farmers living in mud brick villages at the bottom of deeply carved river valleys. Above them sits Lake Nyos, hidden inside the crater of an ancient volcano at 3,579 feet above sea level. Sheer crater walls rise 328 feet on all sides. There is one way out, a narrow stone spillway on the northern rim, just 19 feet wide. Beyond it, the terrain drops 430 feet into tight valley corridors. The high plateaus flanking those corridors offer no lateral escape. If any heavy mass spills over that northern edge, the valleys act as a stone funnel, compressing and accelerating the flow directly into the bedrooms of the farmers below. The locals called it good land. Here is the part people don't like to talk about. In 1984, 60 miles from this lake, the same thing had already happened. Lake Monoun, 37 dead. Volcanologist Haraldur Sigurdsson studied the mechanism, and by early 1986, according to accounts, had submitted a warning paper to the journal Science, months before the Nyos disaster. The peer reviewers rejected the manuscript. Too far-fetched. No early warning systems were installed. The region remained blind. The villages went to sleep. Around 9 p.m., 3 people are going about their evening at different points inside this trap. Ephraim Che, a farmer, his mud brick house sits on a high cliff directly above the crater. Halima Sule, a cowherd, her home is at the shoreline, surrounded by her extended family and 400 cattle. Joseph Nquain, a truck driver from the village of Subum, 12 miles down the valley. Late that evening, sitting in the dim glow of a lamp, helping his 9-year-old daughter finish her homework. None of them know that deep beneath the dark water, something irreversible has already begun. At 682 feet below the surface, that's a 60-story skyscraper submerged completely underwater, 208 meters, the hydrostatic pressure reaches 300 psi, the kind of pressure you'd expect to find inside the steel hydraulic lines of industrial machinery. Here, it was held in place by nothing but the weight of water above it. Under that pressure, the bottom layer of the lake had spent decades quietly absorbing dissolved magmatic CO2, a massive pressurized bottle of carbonated water that had been shaken for years and never opened. Around 9:30 p.m., something displaced a portion of that deep water upward. What exactly triggered it? No investigation has ever determined. Possibly a cold rainstorm that cooled one edge of the surface. Possibly a small landslide on the lake bed. Investigators found no confirmed seismic event that night, though the exact trigger remains officially unknown. The U.S. Geological Survey described it simply as an undetermined mechanism. What followed was physics. The pressure dropped. CO2 came violently out of solution. The water column became buoyant and drove itself toward the surface. The reaction became unstoppable. A fountain erupted above the lake, estimated at nearly 300 feet high, roughly 90 meters, taller than the Statue of Liberty. A surge wave scoured the shoreline, but the water was not the primary weapon. The lake had just exhaled, somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 tons of cold, dense CO2. CO2 is heavier than air. It doesn't rise, it falls. A gas cloud 164 feet thick, 50 meters, poured over the northern spillway. Picture a 16-story building lying on its side, rolling downhill, filling every street, every yard, every room from the floor up. Over the crater rim, 60 miles per hour. Through the valleys, up to 31 miles per hour. On foot, in the dark, on mountain paths, there was no outrunning it. The gas was colorless, silent, odorless. At 10% CO2 concentration, unconsciousness comes within a few breaths. At the epicenter, the concentration was higher. When the cloud reached Suboom, truck driver Joseph smelled rotten eggs. CO2 has no odor. What he experienced was most likely an olfactory hallucination. The brain, under acute oxygen deprivation, can generate false sensory signals. Joseph took a few breaths, tried to stand, and collapsed into a coma at the table. He survived only because he happened to be on the ragged outer edge of the cloud, where a draft through his porous mud brick walls still offered a few thin pockets of breathable air. He came to 36 hours later, covered in pressure sores that the first responders initially mistook for chemical burns. As the gas moved through the valleys, every instinctive survival decision became a death sentence. Those who woke up and ran died faster. Running means hyperventilation. Every deep breath pulled in a larger dose. Their bodies were found on the roads, the lowest topographic points in the valley where the flow was densest. Those who slept on the floor, on woven mats, died quietly, never waking. The gas filled homes from the ground up. The floor was the maximum concentration zone. We are all taught the same fire safety rule. Stay low, the air is cleaner down there. That night, that rule was lethal. In the village of Suboom, there was a rural maternity clinic with a second floor. The gas cloud had a hard physical ceiling, 164 feet, 50 meters. Above that boundary, there was no gas. Everyone on the first floor died. Everyone on the second floor woke up alive. One flight of stairs, no heroism, no struggle, just altitude. At dawn, Farmer Ephraim, the one whose house stood on the cliff above the crater, descended into the valley. The gas had passed beneath him like a river under a bridge. The local waterfall had gone dry. The lake had turned a deep rust brown from oxidized iron pulled up from the bottom. At the shoreline stood Halima the cowherd, the one whose home was at ground zero, and she was screaming. Around her, 31 dead relatives, around 400 dead cattle. She was alive. There is no official physical explanation. The turbulence at the edges of a gas density current is nonlinear, a random eddy. The micro-relief of the shoreline, a pocket of oxygen exactly where she fell. Survival that night had nothing to do with distance from the crater. It came down to altitude above the gas layer and blind chance. Air is not obligated to let you breathe. This is Geoclysm.